Greetings, everyone. Well, it's Monday, and I think it is important that we talk about your mindset. Now, I know we hear that word floating around different places, and I am not a mindset coach. I am a sales coach who also does fractional sales and marketing work for a select group of clients. However, I can tell you that I do not hesitate to tap a mindset coach on their shoulder when I need to ask their expertise or I need to bring them on with one of my existing clients. We live in such an amazing world these days. We live with people all around us who can help us as adjunct team members. In this case, it would be an adjunct team member to help with mindset coaching. I have different people that also work in the area of NLP, of hypnosis. But today, the reason why I wanted to talk about mindset is it is something that can absolutely hold us back and prevent us from having the best year ever. And in case you're wondering, well, how do you know that, Victoria? I know that because my mindset was holding me back. And I really, at that point in time, this was like 2014, I didn't really understand the whole limiting beliefs. I didn't understand really what that meant. Now, I clearly knew that it was important to manage our minds. That's something that perhaps you may have heard me speak about before. My dad had always taught me, he said, he said it in a little different way, but it means the same. He would say, Vic, if you do not control your mind will control you. Now, I have to tell you, years before, I didn't really understand what that meant. Okay. I mean, I kind of grasped the idea like, okay, I have to control my mind. But control wasn't like the best word to use with me. Okay. But I still got the concept with, that my dad was saying. And I still honor him so much. Unfortunately, he passed away, but I still honor him so much because he taught me so many things related to that. So did my mom. But, in my mind, so control uh, for me wasn't like the best word to use because it meant, to me, it meant like I was fighting my mind. Okay. And what I've learned to do over the years since I have had anxiety attacks, severe anxiety attacks in my 20s. Perhaps I'll talk about that in a different session. I think maybe sharing my story about that could help a lot of people. So the control thing, yeah, that word it didn't work that well for me because what I learned to do over the years was more in the realm of managing and honoring, honoring, oh, okay, I feel anxious. Okay. And then I learned a technique where, okay, if I felt anxious, where in my body do I feel anxious? In my case, my shoulders would go up. Okay. So I learned to manage through the symptoms and in turn, they lessened. Okay. But I can tell you that uh, if we don't get, do a check and figure out where our mindset is, then it can absolutely hold us back. The example that I wanted to share with you today, perhaps you can relate to this. I sold millions of dollars of services when I was with AT&T, both systems and network. Okay. However, when it came to my services, meaning after I left AT&T, after I left pharmaceuticals, I started a healthcare company, a caregiving company. Well, I had some issues asking for money with that, but it wasn't that severe. Okay. Because in that particular case, well, for 2 years, before I was able to hire an assistant, I was doing both the front and the back office. Okay. Now, fortunately, I knew that I needed to pay my employees, my caregivers, every 2 weeks. I did not miss one pay period for them in 10 years, the whole time that I had the company. I was proud of myself because that's not easy trying to juggle the cash flow because sometimes clients would pay late, even though I had some policies in place to try to expedite that. For instance, I was one of the first companies in my area to do email billing. So then all they had to do was send the check. What I didn't want to do was send the invoice via regular mail. This was back in 2008, and then wait until they sent the check because I had to pay my employees every 2 weeks. Like I said, I was committed to that. So, and sometimes I did have to ask for the money, I had to ask for the payment. Sometimes I had to go stop over and get the payment because, they were distracted or they were busy. But what was driving me was I knew what the end result was I needed to pay my people every 2 weeks. And uh, so because of that, I was very dedicated and very committed to, okay, I'm going to be the bill collector. And I'm going to have to ask those difficult questions. I'm going to have to say, when can I pick up the check? All of those things. But again, what was driving me was I needed to pay my caregivers. So when I started my coaching business, I noticed that I hesitated to contact a lot of new people. Now, I had been a master cold caller at AT&T. I, you know, called on people that I didn't know in pharmaceuticals. I did the same with my healthcare company. I had no hesitation, with the feet on the street or calling on the phone. But I noticed that I hesitated. And, I had started the first round of clients I started with had actually been or currently were clients of ours, or their family members were clients of ours. Okay. But when it came to like new people and calling on new people, I really, really struggled with that. And when I took a look at it closer and I had my own coach, I figured out that it was my mindset that needed some adjustments. My mindset needed some adjustments because I was hesitant to ask for money, to ask for money for the services that I was providing because I was doubting myself. I was asking myself questions like, who do you think you are that can charge that? It's not a physical product. You know, all these kinds of things. And they were like kind of sneaky thoughts because I really couldn't figure it out at first. And even the one coach that I was working with, she was like, I don't understand. You committed to calling or, contacting 50 new people a week. I don't understand why you're not doing it. Now, some of it, like, I blamed on the fact that I had emergencies with my healthcare company. Okay, which in some cases I did. But I mean, calling 50 people is not that big of a deal. There were times in my life when I would make 100 cold calls a day. And in today's world, you can make 3 times as many easily with the dialers. I mean, I did this by hand with the dialers, with the AI. It's super easy. You could definitely place 300 phone calls, probably even more today. So when I figured that out with the help of others, then it was just a matter of reframing my belief and replacing that belief with a new belief. Okay. It sounds easy. It's really not easy. Okay. Because you will have things pulling at you, or when you feel stronger about that, and then you do, okay, that's my old belief. That was the old way of thinking. Then sometimes call it in a weak moment, or something reminds you of a period of time when you felt like that, it will come back. So the point is, we must get stronger. But in order to understand, clearly about mindset, you almost have to step aside, like take the objective viewpoint and look at yourself objectively. And you can ask yourself this question. This is the big lesson for today. What am I resisting doing? Or what am I avoiding? What am I avoiding? What am I resisting? In my case, it was cold calling, or calling people that I didn't know. It was absolutely ridiculous. I was like, I can't believe, you know, at that time I had probably, I mean, I don't know how many, I didn't count them. I have counted my coaching sessions, but I don't know how many cold calls I did at that time. I'm going to say it was probably pushing 15,000, 20,000, because I did a lot of old, feet on the street things and phone calls over the years since I had started with AT&T. I thought you know, this is crazy. And this was back in 2014, 2016. There was always something. I would stop myself. Oh, well, I think I'll do that in a little bit. I better return this phone call. And yes, it is true. Like I said, that I had, my caregiving company, and that always won, and that should have won, because that was, those I had people that were sick, I had employees, but what I did was I had my time partitioned. So for 2 hours, 2 days a week, I was supposed to be working on prospecting for my coaching business. But, that was when I didn't avoid it. So ask yourself, what are you resisting? Or ask yourself, what are you avoiding? And if you don't already journal, I would encourage you to journal and do free writing. Just seeing, like, when you put the pen to the paper, what comes up. You may even decide to write on the top of the page. You know, I find myself avoiding paperwork. In these days, everything's electronic, but I know that was another thing that I really didn't like submitting expense reports. Oh my gosh, because that required me to sit down, pull out my receipts, do all that stuff. It's not revenue producing, but it is necessary. So ask yourself what you're avoiding, and then do a little bit of self reflection. maybe with your journal, just schedule 15 minutes and then ask yourself questions like, why am I avoiding it? You know, and perhaps in some cases, it's just the time of the day. You know, in some cases, if it's in the afternoon and let's say you're in sales, let's say you're avoiding the cold calls. Let's say you still are required to reach out. Maybe it's not even cold calls, maybe it's DMs. Okay. Ask yourself, why are you avoiding that? Now, it could be the time of the day. Maybe in the afternoon, you're just a little sluggish. Maybe you need to switch that task up to the morning, see what happens. Maybe your energy in the morning is more conducive to making those calls to people that you don't know or sending those DMs to people that you don't know. So you can kind of like play around with that. However, if you determine or if you really can't determine why you're avoiding that, then chances are you may need a coach or chances are you may need a new strategy. Okay. But I can tell you that uh, strategies usually don't work in a lot of cases if it truly is a mindset thing. So you first need to figure out what you're avoiding and then work to what is going to take that block away. And look, we all have challenges. We all have problems that we need to overcome. And that's the beautiful thing about our world and how we live in a world of abundance and resources where we can help each other. So, in my case, again, going back to that example that I had, when I was avoiding the cold calling for my executive coaching, the strategy clearly wasn't working because my mindset was stopping me. Now, if you look, side by side, if you look at me asking for money and collecting money uh, for my caregiving company, I was able to get over that easier because I knew I needed to make payroll every 2 weeks. But I truly believe that had I not needed to make payroll every 2 weeks, and I didn't want to miss a payroll with my caregivers who I valued so much, it was just me. I might have let it slip a little bit. Doesn't make any sense. But a lot of times these things don't make any sense. So I'd love to know what you think. First, just tell me what you're avoiding. And you know what? And just to be clear, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not trying to say you have a mindset problem. I'm just trying to help and share with you what my experiences have been. You clearly might just need a new sales strategy, and I can help you with that. But because it's so important, I don't want anyone that may have a mindset challenge to go without investigating it and without getting help. And like I said, if we do end up working together in some capacity, I do have access to mindset coaching on my team. So you will get the help that you need or the help that you want. But it could also just be a strategy thing. But I share that with you because that was eye opening to me. Like I knew what my strategy was. My strategy was to call 50 people or contact 50 people that I didn't know. I mean, that I hadn't talked to before, and uh, do some interviews, find out more about them, and not offering it to everybody, but if I felt that I could help them, then I would be offering them my executive coaching. So it was just eye-opening that I was stopping myself. Some people might say that's self-sabotage, which I agree. But I really want to keep things simple. And my whole intention of today's live was to get you thinking, is there something stopping you from having the best year ever? We're already in May. It's the fifth month, right, of the year. Is there something that's stopping you? Is there something that's preventing you from having the best year ever? Could it be your mindset? Is it just strategy? Is it just not doing the right things, not knowing the right things to do? Sometimes that could be because a lot of times what I see is that some people that I work with, especially, clients, maybe the new clients, they may have just like a flurry of activity and they're always trying something new, they're always doing something else. However, if they don't take a step aside and really evaluate the metrics, then they most likely are not doing the right things. And in a lot of cases, what I find is people are doing too many things. They need to figure out the few things that are moving the needle, that are revenue, that are actually directly tied to revenue production, and then do more of those and let the other things go or delegate. That's what you can do. I give you permission to do that. Because your time should be spent on, in your area of specialty. Where are you a master at? Are you a master at sales? Then your expertise, your focus needs to be on sales. And I realize that, especially as you're a growing company, and maybe until you get to, a million in revenue or right around there, you may have to be doing things yourself, or you might have a remote team. And that's okay, but delegate what you can, or at least if you still need to do the admin work, do it in the non revenue producing hours, not in the prime time revenue producing hours, because you are, cutting yourself short. And it's a lot of times the little things, the little shifts that make the biggest amount of impact. So I hope that was helpful to you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced anything like that where it's like you had the strategy, you knew what you need to do, however something was always getting in the way? And sometimes it could be like family. Well, I didn't want to, leave my son or my daughter, or you know I didn't want them to feel like I wasn't paying attention to them. But figure out what is it that you're resisting or avoiding, and then dig in a little bit deeper to figure out why. And like I said, in some cases it could be the time of the day. In the afternoon, oh, you're tired, you don't want to be doing any cold calling or cold DMs. Switch that up. If that's all it is, switch it up and do that first thing and see, if that makes a difference. But it is quite interesting how our minds influence, of course, our behaviors, our minds influence our results. So it makes sense that we need to be more aware. And like I said, the reason why this is so important that I share this with you is because when I first identified this and figured this out in 2014, I had no idea. Like, I know our minds are powerful, but I didn't realize that it could actually prevent me, or stop me from doing what I needed to do to get to where I wanted to be, which was at that time, you know, building my coaching business because I knew that in 2018, so I started my healthcare company in 2008. In 2018, I was done. I had made a 10-year commitment. In 2018 was when I sold my client list. So that's why I figured out what was I going to do next, and I started my coaching in 2014. So I had some years, to build while I was still doing my caregiving agency, which I loved. So let me know what you think. Please do share your mindset stories. I love learning from others, and I hope that you learn from me. My name is Victoria Huff. I do fractional sales and marketing work for a select group of companies. And I also do a lot of sales coaching for my business, as well as some other organizations that I work as an adjunct sales coach. So, curious to know what you think about mindset. Do you Is there anything that you're looking to improve, or is there anything that you learned from this story, this lesson of mine that could help you? Let me know. Okay, everyone. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for Truth Tuesday. Take care, everyone.